Hey, everybody, welcome back to Real Words. This is Rayanne Thorn Krueger. I'm your host, and I'm very excited to be introducing our featured lyricist for the month of April 2024. Hey, James. Can you hear me, James? Hi.
Yeah.
This is James
You cut out
Frisbie.
slightly, but I think I hear you good now.
Oh, good. I'm glad that you can hear me. I'm so happy to have you join me today on Real Words to talk about your life as a songwriter, poet, and storyteller. So thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Can you tell our listeners, viewers, where you are located right now?
Yeah, I'm at about 7,000 feet in the Rocky Mountains at a place called Indian Hills, and I'm on the third floor of my family's cafe, Mac Nation Café. It's a recording studio for me.
Awesome. This is great. So I'm so excited to have you here and to talk about your journey. First thing you shared with me, one of the first things you ever shared with me, and I think this was years ago on Facebook, was that you're just an old hippie. What does that mean?
Oh, goodness. Well, it's probably, just part of the era I was in. I graduated high school in 70. Signed up for the draft in 69. I was 18 in 69. And had a lot of friends go. I actually didn't go. And I went to college for about half a semester. And I actually took a course in psychology and did a term paper on LSD experiences and got an A.
Wow.
And left college. Left college, went up to the Sierras.
That A was the culmination of your college career, your A?
No, that was an interruption.
Okay, good.
I went back about 3 years later, and I got a bachelor's degree, and I taught school. But I took about 3 years and went to the woods and played music. And it was kind of like a communal situation most of the time, and animals, Rocky Mountains and Sierras, a lot in the Sierras, and then up into Oregon. But being, part of that thing, a huge part of the hippie thing, peace, love, and music. But it was also, I think, a coming together. A lot of it was a coming together of Eastern and Western thinking through people like Carl Jung, who loved Veda Vedanta and the Upanishads and the whole Hindu, and the chakra system, which is the seven energy centers that the Hindus have explained for millennia. Carl Jung thought was the best description of human psychology, and I would tend to agree with that to this day. But anyway, so there was, I think, part of the whole hippie thing that I was involved with was a very kind of bringing together the East and the West. In fact, I had to kind of go to the East to reconcile my Western upbringing in Christianity. I kind of turned my back on Christianity. Just wasn't, it just wasn't working for me. But then guys like Ram Dass and Alan Watts, they're like, wait a second, let's go throw out the baby with the bath,
Yeah.
And so anyway, that was about 3 years in. Yeah, I've maintained that sensibility of the spiritual quest. As Joseph Campbell talks about the vision quest, which is pretty much universal. It's very much part of the Native American under all kinds of language. But every culture has a vision quest, a communion, a coming of age, a ritual. And so part of that I think was huge. And also part of that was the Native American. There was a huge influence of Native American spirituality and sensibility about the land, Mother Earth, and how we don't control the earth. We should not control the earth. We should not manipulate the earth. We need to be at peace and nurture the earth as, that would be the smart thing to do. Anyway,
It's
so that's a little bit
definitely
of spiel on that. I don't.
it's definitely the smart thing to do. And what's interesting is that you talk so much about this, and you write about it, and you sing about it. And in the 60s and 70s, this would have been, what you just said would have been considered radical, right? And now here we are facing a climate crisis for sure. And I
Right.
saw an interesting quote yesterday, or somebody wrote about how so many people they traveled to go see the eclipse, right? We had the total eclipse, and they traveled to go see the eclipse because they were told the exact time and place that you should be in order to see this full, beautiful, total eclipse here in the US, which won't happen again in the US until 2044, I think is what I read. But these are the same people probably that deny what climatologists and meteorologists are telling us about climate change and the climate crisis. So, well, others might hear what you said just now. 40 years ago, they would have said, oh, that's just a crazy hippie talking, or that's the LSD
Well,
talking, or
the truth
that's
is,
the.
though, Bertrand Russell, Rachel Carson, there's been people talking about this. When I went to college, I went back to college and I took a course in the economy of the environment. And they talked about these things that are called the economists called externalities, which is like
Yes.
smog. Who pays for the smog? The oil companies that produce it, that help produce it, that get rich off of it, that have record profits off of it. No, society. Same here in the Rocky Mountains, the externalities of the mines that are filled with toxicities
Right.
and lethalities, and who's going to pick it up? The
Right.
public's going to pick it up, even though that money was made, extracted. Some of those families are still rich generationally,
Right.
but that's an externality of capitalism, is profit. The profit motive can be a real motivator. It can also be a real destroyer, and I think that's proven over time.
So this lays the foundation for me for who you are and the type of writing that you do. And I want to know, I mean, you were young in the 60s, you were just coming of age, and uh you probably were writing then. So tell me a little bit about that. What drove you to write? Was it these thoughts about the earth? Was it some anger or fear that was happening around you? A lot of people are driven to write out of pain. So, what was it that drove you to
Yeah, there was
be a
definitely
writer?
angst. There was romance in high school. I started writing in high school, love poems. What can I say? And
You're a romantic.
I think that's, read any poet, read Byron. I mean, to have a passion and an energy around. I mean,
Yes.
love is the most common thing,
Yes, it
or one of
is.
the most common things, but
Or the
also
loss
spirituality.
the loss of love also can be a big motivator for
Yeah,
writing.
yeah.
What do you think
With
came
me,
first for you?
when I was a young teenager, the Beatles hit. I know I'm talking more because there's a delay, and I'm sorry to interrupt
No,
you.
that's okay. You're great.
Anyway, yeah, the Beatles hit. That was '63. I was 12. Huge impact. I mean, I went to school the next day, Monday morning, and the earth had shifted,
Yeah.
truly. But then Bob Dylan and the band. I mean, I could go on and on. Muddy Water. All these. And then also writers. I read Vincent van Gogh's biography by Irving Stone when I was 12, and also that same summer I read Siddhartha by Herman Hesse. Then I read Beneath the Wheel by Herman Hesse, and I got all of Van Gogh's picture books, and I got this book called Letters to Theo by Vincent. Wonderful writer, amazing writer, philosopher, spiritual
Wow.
man. That's I would recommend that book as highly as I would recommend any book I know of.
And that's Letters to
Uh,
Theo?
Letters to Theo by Vincent van Gogh.
Okay. We'll have
And
to check it
it's the
out.
correspondence between the two brothers who were, of course, a group. Anyway, yeah, so it's just this constant unfolding of influences, and then you put it in the, it becomes the amalgam in your cauldron, and you heat it up
Right.
with a little bit of your own strengths and weaknesses. You can't do some things, so you cop what you can, and but all these various influences. Bob Dylan for me was and remains, the quintessential.
Well, he's a poet and a songwriter. I don't know
Yeah,
how
and
you.
to be
I guess
honest,
if you're
I
a
never make that
songwriter,
differentiation.
right, right.
I don't make it. I know there's been discussions even in songwriting circles, Dylan circles about poet, songwriter. I never have made a differentiation between those two because a lot of poems are built on couplets of some kind, not always,
Right.
but a lot of lyrics are not always couplets either. So anyway, it's
Right.
just to me that's a worthless differentiation.
I like that. I like it. So tell me, what do you think you wrote first? Did you write a song first? Did you write a poem first? Did you write a
Poems. I wrote
story first?
poems,
Okay. So poems.
poems,
So
and then I've
what
been
led?
influenced. Nat Cole was my first. Nat Cole was my first huge vocal influence
Okay.
through the Christmas, being a little boy, 5, 6, 7 years old, listening to his Christmas songs, and he was a baritone, so when my voice changed, I can sing Nat Cole without having to transpose it, which is nice. And I
Right.
still do. I do like Nature Boy. You know about that song, Nature Boy?
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful song, and the backstory on that is one of the great stories in all of music, in my opinion.
Tell us.
Ahmed Abez, anyway, the writer was the first hippie in SoCal, living underneath the Hollywood sign. Took the lyrics and the music to a Nat Cole club date. Couldn't see Napa. Gave it to Nat's manager, who read it and was like, "Oh my God!" And then gave it to Nat, and it was his first biggest hit. Nat Cole, a song called "Nature Boy" by what's that? Eden Abez. Eden. His first name is Eden, like the Garden of Eden. Eden Abez. Wonderful story, wonderful poet.
Wow.
But music
I didn't know
is,
that story. That's great. That's a great
oh,
story.
it's one of the great stories, and it changed his life. But he remained. He got some notoriety, of course, and some money. Went to New York, and he was asked, "Where did you stay? What hotel? All these wonderful hotels in Manhattan. Where did you stay?" "I slept in the best hotel in the city. I slept in Central Park." That was just him.
that's that's perfect. That's perfect. So when you consider legacy, let's talk just a moment about legacy. Your legacy. What do you hope will be your legacy that you leave to your, you said you're at
Uh,
your family's cabin, Mac Nation Café. Tell us what that is first. Mac Nation.
yeah, Mac Nation Café, it's mac and cheese. We got started here actually just 9 years ago, April 1st, and we have mac and cheese, the home, the house, and then it's got 50 different Mac Nation, 50 different toppings that go on it. It's
Wow.
baked. And we've actually gained some notoriety. We won the Taste of Evergreen 3 times. We were on 9 News, NBC, and it got spread nationwide for the
I
weekend.
love
So we
that.
actually have people coming from all over the country saying they saw us on the news.
I
We were
love
on the
that.
Food Channel. We also get people from the Food Channel that come here, and now we've got another cafe in Golden, which is about 15 minutes away. We've got a food truck that goes around to various breweries. And my daughter and my wife are, I do inventory shop, inspire, play music. This has been my venue now for 9 years, which is
That's what I was
perfect for
going,
me.
that was what I was going to ask next. So you have a place where you can play live local music for folks that are coming in. How often do you
Right.
perform?
Well, I can really do a solo acoustic anytime, and we have a small indoor dining, but our biggest dining area is outside patio. So when the weather's nice, really any time of year, if the sun's out and it's not windy, it can be 25 degrees and all you need is a light jacket, and
Right.
the air is so thin up here. The sun is really strong, but from spring, summer, fall, we can be just packed. I mean, literally packed all day long. And so we're thankful. I mean, it's a blessing. A lot of people have worked hard and done their best, and it doesn't work. So especially through COVID, I feel extremely thankful and blessed.
Yes. Yes, especially through COVID. And you know, I'm so thankful for social media and Facebook because that's how you and I first met and stayed connected over the years. So let's go back to legacy. What do you hope, besides have creating an amazing, participating in the creation of an amazing macaroni and cheese cafe in Colorado with 50 different toppings, which I got to drag my husband there at some point, right? Uh, Tell us what you hope your legacy will be, James, as a creative. I want to talk about this as the creative person that you are.
I think it's my grandchildren, and they're already singing, already dancing, already doing art. 5 years old, you know, and like my little 5-year-old Mira, she can sing. She loves Raindrops Keep Falling on Your Head by
Oh,
Dionne
I love
Warwick.
that.
Can sing it note for note. 5 years old, and so that's the first thing. Just and to my kids, uh, the sense that in modern physics we come with energy, we leave with energy. It's everlasting. First of all, thermodynamics is energy is not created or destroyed; it's transformed. And I've instilled that in them that there's no fear of death, there's no fear of life. We just ride it the best we can.
That's right.
And sometimes it's hard, and there's no easy. But like I mentioned the other day, the yin and yang. There's white and black, but and both can contain a little of the other, and it's in spin. And that's just how life is. And that's Buddha's first law. There's suffering. Hello, there's suffering. That's just how it is. And
I don't
so
think
we
we
do our
can
best
have.
through that, and love each other through that.
Yeah, and I
So
think
that's my
we.
legacy is, and my youngest daughter Alton has expressed she wants all my writings, and I've got a bunch. I've got notebooks here, my current stuff, but I also I've got stuff from high school, literally, more from college, and then through the years, just more and more and more. And Alton wants that, so and some of it's decent, even if I do say so myself. But there's that, but that's not that big to me, to be honest with you. I've planted some trees. I built some stone walls that are going to last a while. Yeah.
Well, I think your
I'm a
energy is
simple
gonna.
man with a simple plan.
And with a big energy. You're a simple man, but you have a big energy that I feel all the time, and I'm grateful for our relationship. To that end, I want to talk about some where you pull inspiration from. And one of the things I know is that you actually read something that I wrote and used some of the verbiage from my writings to write a song.
Yeah, that was Grace. Grace, I read one day. I met you through Don, dear
Yes.
Don Mular, and yeah. So I was reading something you wrote. I don't know if we were already friends, but anyway, you wrote, and Grace Lace tenacity was part of a longer spiel that was insightful. But that somehow that phrase, and that's how I've always. I'm an inspirational writer. I don't have a discipline of going someplace every day at a certain time, or I'm an atmospheric. I would consider myself an atmospheric writer. Something, I hear something, or I think of something, or something that grabs me. And that, like that phrase, Grace Lace tenacity, goes running down the hall, chasing after her brother, afraid he might take a fall, wondering at the reason. So many look away and thinking of the season and what rags he might wear that day. That's the first verse. So it's just, I don't know. It just starts, but that energy that initial inspiration. That's how I mean, everyone does it differently, all the writers,
Right.
you know. I'm a little Dylan-esque. I read a little bit about what Dylan does. It's like in Kerouac, I've been influenced by Kerouac, best thought, first thought. It's almost like Kerouac even called it just mental vomit, just get it out there. And I've seen the scroll on the road, and he made edits. So it's not like, you know, it's set in stone, first thought, best thought, but that's a good place to start. And I do editing, obviously, but sometimes it just comes out like that particular song, and others, sometimes they just like, boom, you know, it's kind of interesting.
I love it. I love it. So I want to talk about something that kind of inspired Real Words, and that is the future for creativity. So, what do you think? Do you think that we are at risk for future creativity with what technology is bringing us today?
Yeah, I think it's like everything else. You know, it's the yin yang. It's the double-edged sword. You know, technology is a wonderful thing in many, many ways, and it's also, I mean, it has us on the precipice of kind of utter destruction. You know, so it's an interesting juxtaposition of powers and energies. But in terms of creativity, I think it's just in the human heart. I think artists are born, nurtured, inspired, and I think that's inevitable. And I think there's been, I mean, I can see creativity with a lot of the. Well, I use a recording suite, you know, Studio One, you know, and I can build all these tracks and have all these effects, and you know, I appreciate that, and I appreciate having 4 or 5 people in the room and doing it all live and recording that as well. But it gives opportunities in many ways, and to writers and to like yourself to do something like this. This is all kinds of good, but
Yes.
then also we got people trying to hack into it all and bring us all down. So it's and in terms of creativity with AI, I think I see that personally as a slippery kind of slope. You know, I've seen people taking Van Gogh stuff and using AI to, I mean, to enhance Van Gogh. I mean, I don't
I
think.
it's a fearful place for me. I read I wanted to share this with you. It was a Bag of Bones Press, which is a publisher, tweeted this out. Please do not send us AI written stories. Reading such feigned, craftless nonsense is making us lose the will to live, and we are already dead. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
there
yeah.
you
It's you know, but there's like as far as we know, you know, in this rock cycle, as we can read it, there's never been 8.5 billion, close to 8.5 billion people on this planet with this kind of technology capability, and so we're, you know, it's more or less in uncharted territory.
it
And
is.
and it's going to unfold black and white. I mean, I'm not, I mean, I've always been a hippie loving piece of music and spirit. But if you read any wisdom tradition anywhere on the planet, there is no coming together and world of harmony and peace until it's by fiat. You know, it's until it's forced to happen in one way or another. In fact, the Hindus, we're in Kali Yuga. It's where it's Devo is right, devolution. We're winding things down according to the Hindus, according to the Christians too, according to the Muslims too, according to the Jews too. Everyone's like, we're winding down. There's going to be some cataclysm because humankind has black and white, and we just can't. But with that said, we do what we can. You know, we let your little light shine. And I'm not, you know, I have all kinds of demons and all kinds of issues and all kinds of negativities and problems, but I try to, you know, Paul says, set your mind, and meditation, the whole Eastern thing is set your mind, you know, set your mind, you know, it's all about the mind. It's all about the mind because we experience what's in our mind. And so when something comes along that ain't good, for especially if it's yesterday and tomorrow, it's just like bring it
Right.
back to here and now and to as positive as you can bring yourself to be, which is just like the heartbeat and look out the window.
It's all about balance. It's about maintaining that balance. And I didn't ask you to do this, but uh, do you have a favorite song that you've written?
Uh, Possibly, to be honest, sometimes it's hard for me to get through. It's for my children. Maybe I shouldn't do that one. Here's one. You want me to play a little bit?
I would love for you
Is
to
that
play
what
a
you
little bit.
said?
That's what I'm getting at.
I'm not going to do for my children because it's hard for me to get through sometimes. But I'll do what this is called. Met at the Museum. It's inspired by I spent very fortunately probably overall 2 months of days at the Met in New York City, and still barely feel like I barely scratched the surface. The place is so deep, so much
Yeah.
there. But this was inspired by that and the photos I took, and and anyway, yeah, here it is. We met at the museum, cornered muse over arched stall, espresso on the balcony, expressing mysteries in the tapestries, pigmented wanderings, partial glimpsed metaphors, splattered in fine line impression pointed, canvas looking for a painted door, pointing at another show. Where, why, when, or how. Sometimes tears, sometimes laughter, whispers of that arrive. If I knew, I would tell you, for sure, my precious friend. Let go of the yearning, turning, churning, forget, assuring, beyond manipulation. Timing finally arrives. It's never late for punctual. Cannot stop it. It's moving. It's fine tuning. Pointing at another show. Well, when or how. Sometimes we got tears and sometimes laughter. Whispers of true love arrive. Yeah, there's one.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you for sharing that. I really
yeah, it's the
appreciate
same old stuff. I
it.
don't really say much. I just say it different ways.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely feel the Bob Dylan influence. And I know that the Beatles and John Lennon have been a huge influence on you as well. Is there a
Absolutely.
favorite is there a favorite book that you've read that you really aside from Letters to Theo? Do you have another one you can share?
Favorite book. I don't know. That's a tough one. That's really tough. Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda was a huge book for me. Again, bringing East and West together. He has or had, he's gone now, but he had started several, I think they called them temples or ashrams, whatever, in Southern California. One in Encinitas, which I lived right by and spent a lot of time in that garden he created. And again, bringing East and West together, he was one of those guys. Um, yeah, letters to Theo, but I could go on and on. There's like just so many. I mean, you know.
Well, I can't thank you enough, James, for joining us today. If folks want to come to Mac Nation, what's the best way for them to find you?
Uh, we're on Facebook. We're on, Yelp. We're on all the stuff. Do it.
Okay.
We're on the internet. You can do it in, but yeah, Mac. 3 words. Mac Nation Café. It's mac and cheese. My
Okay.
band plays here nice days on the weekends out on the patio, and it's lovely. It's pine trees and rocks and the Rocky Mountains.
And if people want to reach you, James Frisbie, is it best just to find you on Facebook, or how's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, that's all I really got right now. I don't really do much marketing or anything. I
Okay.
lay low, I stay local, and I just stay busy with my grandkids and the cafes and
That's
the
life,
music.
right? That's what life's about.
Yeah. And there's not one day goes by I don't notice how beautiful this place is. This place is spectacular. I'm like 10 minutes from Red Rocks, which is spectacular, unbelievable. People come from all around the world
They
to
do.
go to Red Rocks and then what's called the Hogback, which is a geologic wonder and dinosaur bones. And I mean, I'm like 10, 12 minutes from all
You're
that.
right there.
I'm like 20 minutes from the Mount Evans, what's now Mount Blue Sky. Mount Evans, but anyway, that's another whole story. But the wilderness is 20 minutes away, so I'm very well situated.
That's amazing. James, thank you so much. My guest today has been Frisbie, James Frisbie, who I've known for years, and I'm so happy that he was able to join me. Storyteller, songwriter, musician, poet, and a heart of gold.
Mountain
Thank you,
man.
James. And a mountain man. We can't forget that. Yeah. Check out Mac Nation Cafe. And if you want to find him, it's James Frisbie, Frisbie. Thank you, James.
Yeah. Thank you. God bless us all.